All right, everyone ready to go? Okay,
Yes, sir.
I think we're all ready.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is the June 11th, 2026 Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting, and I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. Please stand if you are able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just a couple of announcements as usual. Please silence your cell phones, and if you are speaking to the board or on the board, please speak clearly into the microphone so everyone can hear us. We should have 7 voting members momentarily. One is missing, but he should be here in a second, so I'll hold off on appointing an alternate for now, and hopefully Felix will arrive. Let's see, a couple of other things I'd like to, we do have one alternate member vacancy still. So if anyone out there in the town would like to apply for that position, we have applications on the town website and I believe in the town clerk's office. So please feel free to apply. We could certainly use your help. I'd like to welcome Denise Haynes from MJ Engineering, who will be filling in for Dennis Lynch, who couldn't make it to tonight's meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also, we understand that Anisha Samuels is also not able to make it. She notified us late today and indicated she couldn't get here. And go Knicks! Yeah. Miracle in the Garden, as I'm calling it. Unbelievable.
I happened to be in New York City yesterday, and the support.
You were at the game?
I was not at the game. No.
But you know, sitting next to Seinfeld.
You know, I was in the minority by not wearing Knicks, any Knicks outfits or hats or anything else. So it was really stunning to see.
Well, and it appeared that after the game, the party kept on going on the streets and everywhere.
Yes.
Even the stadium, nobody wanted to leave, apparently.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That was probably the second most exciting sporting event I've ever seen, whether it was live as it was in 1980 when I saw the U.S. hockey team beat the Soviets in Lake Placid in person. This one was pretty close, although I wasn't there, but I could feel the energy coming out of the TV set. So with all the other crazy, strange things going on in the world, it was nice to have a crazy good thing happen like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving right along. So we have several requests for extensions of approval. The first one being Chick-fil-A, 18 Westridge Drive, Site Development Plan, or to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on May 12, 2026, which is a request for a 1-year extension. The current one expiring on June 12th, 2026. So please come up and just give us a quick update on why we need an extension for this.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Charles Gottlieb from the law firm of Whiteman, Osterman, and Hanna in Albany, New York. About a year ago, we received planning board approval for the Chick-fil-A restaurant. Since that time, we've been doing various things. We've been obtaining all outside agency approvals, which we have now obtained most recently from the New York State Department of Transportation. We also have been going through an approval process with a lot of our neighbors because of some of the changes to West Merritt Boulevard. There's a private access easement there that required consent from other neighbors that utilize that access. We have received all those, so that loop is also closed. The last remaining item before we can get the site plan signed is filing the appropriate bonds with the town clerk. Those have been approved. They were put in the mail today to the town clerk, so we expect those to be filed tomorrow. That said, we're eager to pull a building permit and start construction as soon as we are able to. We do require a one-year extension to allow us to get that building permit, but we do expect construction to start this summer.
That's confusing to me.
What, Fred?
What part?
Why do we need a year?
Well, that's a question that I think we all have in our
Yeah.
minds. Yeah, I think that's something we can discuss.
And I think that might be the attorney's fault. Typically, when I go in for extensions, ask for a year. Certainly, 6 months, 3 months, we are ready to start.
That sounds much better to us.
Yeah, Dominic, do you have anything to
It's the
add?
board's preference, and as Mr. Gottlieb mentioned, they've satisfied, I believe, all the other conditions of approval. They're finalizing that process. I want to also thank you for your patience on my review. I would have had some other obligations, but was able to complete that, so appreciate that very much.
Of course.
Yeah, why don't we go for a 6-month extension, and as long as you promise not to take all that time up.
Trust me when I say Chick-fil-A does not want to take all that time up.
All right. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve a 6-month extension of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval for Chick-fil-A, which would go till December 12th, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Bob moves it. Was that Kevin seconding? Any further discussion?
No.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 7-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right, the next extension request is for Dutchess Storage, Site Development Plan and Special Use Permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on May 22, 2026. This is a request for an additional 3-month extension of the resolution of conditional final. And that the most current extension is set to expire on June 14th, 2026. So I understand that Mr. Ward Willis won't be able to make it here, but I know he's been in discussion with our attorney, Dominic Cordisco. Dominic, would you like to just mention
Yes,
where they stand?
That's correct. And so they had a very similar issue to Chick-fil-A in regards to the approval and then the filing of their performance securities for the maintenance and for construction. And that review has been completed. They are now in the process of getting the executed performance securities filed with the town clerk. In speaking with Mr. Ward Willis today, he suggested that 3 months would not be necessary, that 60 days should cover it on their end, and they anticipate moving forward.
Oh, okay. Any questions or comments from board members?
No, I mean, they requested 3 months. I don't know if we've done 2 months, but I mean, tomato, I think 3 months is
Yeah, 3 months is good.
It's fine.
3 months is always safer.
Yeah.
You know,
All
in
right.
case, you know, if there's any issue on their end, but I don't believe that there's any more town review in regards to,
All
Their
right, so
project.
we'll go with a 3-month extension?
Yeah.
All right, would someone like to make that motion to approve a 3-month extension of the resolution of conditional final approval for Dutchess Storage? That would go till September 14, 2026.
So moved.
Second. Anthony moves it and Bob seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 7-0 as well. Okay, good. And then the final extension for tonight is 300 Westage Hotel Site Development Plan. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on May 28th, 2026. This is a request for a 6-month extension. Any other dates sound good? No, I think 6 months would be probably a good common one to use. That would be for the extension of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval and that currently is set to expire July 10th, 2026. So welcome, and if you can just give us a quick update on where things stand.
Sure. Thank you. Karen Lobruto, Labella Associates, here for Riverlink Hotels. Yes, so we've been moving forward with the project. The applicant has been working through business terms with the end user, and probably the one thing that's just been making this take a little longer is coordination with the Westage Business Maintenance Association and then the Village of Fishkill on the water design. And no real issues there, just coordination, looking through old files, that sort of stuff. So we expect that to be worked out shortly and anticipate being able to pull our permits and complete the conditions as needed.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, comments from board members?
There are other elements such as the bond, but no major approvals outstanding.
All right. Dominic, anything to add?
No, I think at this point, the project, they're continuing to work on it, and a 6-month extension would be appropriate.
Okay. Do we have a motion then to approve a 6-month extension of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval for 300 Westage Hotel, and that would go to January 10th, 2027?
So moved.
All right. Sorry, Ravi moves it, and Felix seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? That carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And next we have a number of project reviews. First is Johnson Trails 5-lot subdivision. Board to review a draft resolution of conditional final reapproval and to consider adopting and authorizing the chair to sign said document. Welcome, Michael. Good to see you.
Good evening, good evening.
This was discussed at the May meeting, and the planning board attorney did prepare a draft resolution of reapproval for the board's consideration. So Dominic, why don't we just ask you to quickly summarize the resolution and then see if the applicant has any questions.
Yes, I'm going to try to be as quick that I've ever been, because there's no change in the conditions whatsoever. This is simply a readoption of what the board previously considered and adopted for this particular project.
That's
Sounds
it?
good.
That's it. That's it. That's it. You did start the meeting by saying there's a game tonight, is there not?
Well, not the Knicks game, no.
No, there's no game.
Now, the Knicks game may be continuing today from last night.
Yes.
But, no, they have to travel back out to San Antonio and take over out there.
I think, Dominic, the only
tells you
change,
how with it I am.
Everybody's talking nice.
Dominic, the only change being the whereas where you just noted that it
Oh, is that
lapsed
right?
and
Yes,
we're going for,
correct. And it follows the town's procedure, which allows them to apply for readoption.
So it just documents the process of everything that's happened. So,
Absolutely.
perfect. Yeah. That's good.
Any other questions from board members? Denise, any questions or comments?
No questions or comments, and MJ had no comments on that resolution that was reviewed.
All right, thank you. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the resolution of conditional final subdivision approval readoption for Johnson Trails 5-lot subdivision as reviewed tonight and authorize the chair to sign it?
So moved.
Bob moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
Felix seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding the procedure is if I wanted to if I had a question, legal question for council, that I have to obtain authorization from the board ahead of time. Is there any objection for me emailing you tomorrow on an issue?
Well,
I have no objections to that if the board is comfortable, but the only thing I would say is that if it's in regards to the submission of items for consideration of closing out conditions, like those have to go through Debbie. So like the submission would be through Debbie if you're actually making your submission. But if you have questions about how to get there to make your submission, I certainly don't have any issue with them reaching out to me, as long as that's okay with the board.
so is that the case? And is there anything we can help you with tonight? Since we have Dominic here, and he does get paid by the word, I think. Is that how it works?
In which case, it's going to be...
If that's the case, I need to change my retainer. It's something I can email him on. It's short. It's just an interpretation on the code.
All right, well, in that case, would somebody like to make a motion authorizing the two attorneys to communicate?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Okay,
Thank you very much. Thank you for your consideration.
okay, good.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Now we get to Willow Lake Partners Group LLC, Site Development Plan, Special Use Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit. Board to review a draft resolution of preliminary approval, Site Development Plan, and Special Use Permit, and to consider adopting and authorizing the chair to sign said document. So, although I was not here at that meeting, the planning board adopted a neg deck, or a determination of non-significance pursuant to seeker for the proposal at the May 14th meeting, and authorized the planning board attorney to prepare a draft resolution of preliminary approval for a site development plan and special use permit for the board's consideration at tonight's meeting. In the meantime, the town zoning board of appeals met on May 19th and did adopt a resolution granting the requested area variances, subject to certain conditions that are enumerated in that resolution. So we do have a draft resolution. First, if the applicant team would like to come up, and if you have anything you would like to tell the board or ask in regard to the draft resolution, we'll give you an opportunity to, if you have any questions on the resolution, to ask them after Dominic goes over it. But welcome, and good to see you here.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Up to the board in terms of how you want to go through it. Maybe we go through the resolution, and then in order as we're doing so, we could provide comments as we have them.
Or what we'll usually do is we'll let Dominic go through the resolution, and if you do have any specific issues or comments you'd like to make, we could wait till after he gets through them. Unless if there's something like something very simple or a quick typo or something like that, we can do that as we get to them. All right.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, and just so we're all aware, and Debbie as well, I just anticipated I have it pulled up. So what you have in front of you is a draft number 3. It's dated June 9th. And again, I want to thank you for the board for your patience. This came a little later than I normally like, but it was also one of the more complex resolutions that we've had to prepare. And as you can see, even at the end of the listing of documents submitted to the board, it was truly comprehensive on this project and amounted to over 100 separate items as far as the record is concerned for all the various different studies and plans that were submitted. So as the chairman mentioned, that this is a resolution granting preliminary site development plan approval, as well as special use permit approval. The purpose of granting preliminary site development plan is so that the applicant can then take this approval and go to all the other involved agencies that they need permits from to show that the plans have reached a stage where it is now subject to outside agency approvals. And then at some point, presumably, they will come back before the board seeking final site development plan approval. So the board will have a further opportunity to review and evaluate the plans prior to any sort of commencement of construction or anything like that. If the board is okay, I would skip over the introductory paragraphs and the whereases, beginning truly on pages 3 and 4 are the findings that the board is making, both in connection first with the site development plan, that it meets the requirements of the code for various different aspects regarding the layout and engineering of the site, but also, and very importantly, we can focus on these in particular if you would like, but the special use permit criteria, which requires, in this case, and in all cases when you actually grant a special use permit, it requires the board to make affirmative findings, that you're finding that this particular project meets the criteria set forth in the code.
Yeah, I was hoping you could especially go through the special use permit criteria, not in their entirety, but
yes,
give the board a good feeling for why we're
yes. So
looking at those criteria.
It actually begins at the top of page 4, and so the first special use permit criteria relates to the location and size of the use, the nature and intensity of the operations involved in or conducted in connection with it, the size of the site in relation to it, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it are such that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is located. That's the criteria, and then there is an extensive discussion regarding that, regarding with the location of the site, and as well as the size of the project in relation to the size of the site, and as well as the nature and intensity of the project operations connected in connection with the location and size of the site. I'm not going to read all of that, but there's an extensive discussion for all of those elements to meet that criteria. But once again, these are your findings, so if you have any questions or different thoughts or opinions, then we would certainly welcome those.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, after having read through all of these criteria myself, just flagging this to the board, that these are things that we've discussed throughout the meetings. Our own engineers have contributed a lot to that. The applicant team has contributed a lot to that, and the board's discussion has resulted in really a lot of the language in this resolution.
Absolutely. So the second criteria is the location, nature, and heights of buildings, walls, and fences, and the nature and extent of existing or proposed plantings on the site are such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings, and will be compatible with the surrounding area. And again, there is a discussion of how the project meets that criteria. The next criteria is operations in connection with any special use will not be more objectionable to nearby properties by reason of noise, light, fumes, vibration, or other characteristics than would be the operations of any permitted uses not requiring a special permit. And of course, this is your finding. This is your opinion in regards to that aspect of the project. The fourth criteria, letter D, at the bottom of page 6, is parking areas will be of adequate size for the particular use, properly located, and suitably screened from adjoining residential uses, and the entrance and exit drives shall be laid out so as to achieve maximum safety. Followed by a discussion regarding parking and use of the site and access. Letter E, bottom of page 7, the proposed use, structure, design, and site layout comply with all of the provisions of the Town of Fishkill Code and with the Town of Fishkill Comprehensive Plan. And of course, with the variances, the project complies with the Town of Fishkill code. Letter F, begin at the top of page 8. The site layout with proposed vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian access, traffic circulation, and parking and loading facilities is sufficient for the proposed use and is safely designed for emergency vehicles. And then following by that is letter G. The project includes sufficient landscaping and/or other forms of buffering to protect surrounding land uses. Existing vegetation is preserved to the extent practicable. Those are the special permit criteria. Moving on to the conditions of the approval, and bear in mind that this is preliminary approval, so there would be also a conditional final approval if and when they come back before the board. The first thing that they have to do right now is address any outstanding engineering comments. The last engineering memo was dated April 1st. I also summarized the fact that number 2, they have to get the outside agency approvals. We did not list them all because we will do that for the conditional final, but we certainly indicate that the approvals obviously include the public water and sewer extensions from Dutchess County Department of Health and the Village of Fishkill. They also have to obtain coverage, and this is in connection with the actual signage on the site development plan, but we're including it here so that everyone certainly is aware, and I'm sure that they are, is that they have to obtain coverage under the general permit for stormwater. And they have to enter into a stormwater facilities control agreement with the town board. If you recall, number 5 deals with lot merger. There are 3 tax lots. Those lots have to be merged, so there'll be 1 lot at the time that the site development plan is signed. They've also applied for the freshwater wetlands, watercourse, and water body permit for the disturbances that they have on site. That has been an application that has been reviewed by the board, submitted early on in the process, and was also the subject of the public hearing that you already had. There's a shorter time frame on the issuance of that permit as how long it's valid for. And so my expectation is that they will request that at the time that they get conditional final approval. We're just flagging it here that is also something that's necessary. They have to reimburse the town for all of the costs for the review. There's also our standard limitation of use provision, saying that the approval is limited for exactly what they've applied for and nothing further. If there are any changes to how they intend to operate the site, then they have to come back before the board seeking an amended approval. The board also adopted a detailed negative declaration, so the applicant will have to comply with all the mitigation measures that are laid out in that negative declaration. There's also compliance with the terms of the Zoning Board of Appeals variance decision that was just adopted on May 19th. That also included an obligation to continue to address before this board the landscaping plan that they have revised before the ZBA, that this board will also have to review and eventually approve, as well as working with this board to address any other concerns. And the rest is all fairly much legalese, and the fact that the approval will be valid for 1 year unless they request an extension of that.
Okay, so first, any questions from board members, questions or comments?
No.
And are you happy with the language, the additional language installed into each of the special use permit criteria? I thought that was very well done. Some of that had been covered, I think, partly in the negative declaration as well, but
Yes, sir.
again, that was very well put out on paper, and I think it's really important to make sure it's clear, not only to the applicant, but to the audience out there and the public, that this is something that's been reviewed by the board for not quite a year on this one, but it's been a while. So we've had a number of meetings with the applicant and gone through quite a bit of detail. So does the applicant team have any questions or comments on the resolution?
We do, Chairman. Just a few minor typos. Twice it refers to the parking number of 274 spaces. It's 279.
So where is that?
On the first page, the large paragraph on the bottom right side of the page. And then
It should be, I'm sorry, it's 274 and it should be
279.
279. Okay.
And then again, it is on the last paragraph on page 9.
Page 9. Got it.
Okay. I made those changes. Thank you.
On the second page, the fifth whereas, where it's discussing the variances, parking in the front yard was not identified, and that was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals. So after steep slopes, if the board is in agreement, adding parking in the front yard.
Let's see, which whereas number was that?
The fifth.
Right after the Nick deck, whereas.
So I'm going to add that after the wall height variance, comma, parking in the front yard, a variance to allow parking in the front yard. And then it will continue on in a variance for construction on steep slopes. If that's
Okay.
Yep. And then the first paragraph on page 7, where it refers to valet parking, we would just request that we add 4 guests after, due to the spaces we have located beneath the restaurant and the event space for employees.
So this right now says the size of the parking areas has also been minimized through implementing a program of valet-only parking.
Yeah, if we could add 4 guests after.
Valet parking for guests.
As opposed to employees, is that the distinction?
Correct, because we have the parking available underneath the restaurant and the event hall building,
Which
which won't be for valet purposes.
Understood. I
Okay.
made that change.
That was the type of the with the 2 colors.
I did notice also a typo at the end. There was a blank number 2 in the list of 100 documents. So I've deleted that, and so now the list is right.
Towards the bottom, paragraph towards the bottom.
Right.
Yeah, that one right there.
Okay.
And then towards the bottom of page 4,
Oh,
in the paragraph, in the large paragraph in the center of the page, right after filed map, there's a comma, just a minor typo.
Yeah, just the spacing.
Okay.
That was it from us.
okay. All right. Denise, did you have a chance to look through the resolution? Do you have any thoughts or comments?
Dennis had sent an email and had no comments.
All right. All right, then. So if there are no other questions or comments from board members, or do you have anything, Felix?
I do not, no.
Well, then, would you like to make a motion to approve the resolution of preliminary approval for the site plan and special use permit for Willow Lake Partners Group LLC as reviewed and revised tonight, and to authorize the chair to sign it?
I would, so I'll move that.
Okay, thank you, Felix.
And Kevin second.
Kevin seconds. All right, any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries 7-0. And again, as Dominic already mentioned, we will consider a resolution for the wetlands watercourse water body permit at the time of final site plan approval, conditional approval. All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you all.
Be
Thank
seeing
you
more
very
of you all,
much.
And thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And once again, thank you all for your patience. This came a little late, but there was a lot there. Yes,
Thanks, Dominic.
of course. Thank you.
All right. The next project review is 400 Westage, Site Development Plan Amendment. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on May 27, 2026. The applicant last appeared, I think it was December 11th, 2025, and indicated that the project team would be looking at the possibility of modifying the plans, which I think you have done. So would you like to just give us a quick overview of what the modifications have been?
Sure. Hi, again, Karen Lobruto with Labella Associates. I'm here with the applicant, Westage Associates.
Yeah, 400 Westage Drive Associates, LLC.
Yes. They have an existing medical building at 400 Westage, as you know. When we were here in December, as you mentioned, I think we prefaced with we would be taking a little step back to consider construction costs. So our original architectural design had some modern flourishes that with today's construction costs were really a little bit beyond what was reasonable for this time. And so we've dialed it back, but we think actually it's a wonderful plan that really ties directly in with the existing building. You know, the existing building is brick,
yeah,
and the proposed building addition is brick. So, you know, that's where we're headed in terms of architectural design. Here's probably a better rendering showing the 4-story addition on the 2-story building, well, adjacent to the 2-story building. The porte cochere was also changed to some degree, just kind of simplified in terms. And that's over here with the cars, kind of in this northern, kind of mid-northern portion of the building. So I could kind of leave it there and see if there are any questions about the architecture, or if you'd like, I can talk you back through the site plan changes just to help you remember what was involved.
Yeah, why don't you do that
Okay.
with the site plan
Okay.
changes?
So, okay, there we go. Right.
I thought the earlier version of the porte cochere was kind of interesting, but it was a little different. So I understand sometimes the architecture on an addition likes to have a contrast as opposed to a blend, but this one seems to be a better blend than the previous one was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially the porte cochere had that modern flourish. I think there was kind of a thin element, and it was gorgeous, but it just, you know, coupled with the glass, we just, you know, to tie it all together, it just makes sense to keep with the brick finish at this point. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah, just in the front, specifically with the porte cochere, what was proposed, we learned later, would have required a pretty drastic change to the entire entrance and the 2-story glass that we currently have. And we didn't want to replace all that. We wanted to work very much with what's there and just give it a fresh look. So when we went back to Labella with those comments, this is what they prepared, which matches what we need.
Okay, so you guys might remember that the main drive had an entry to 400 Westage, which is currently today very awkward. And so when Vishal came to us at Labella, that was really one of the initial things he said. He said, the entry to our site is just really awkward. People, you know, really don't know who's moving where and when, and what can we do to improve this? So what we're doing to improve it is we're, you know, essentially continuing this access here off of the main road, and these gray areas are areas that are going away. They'll be saw cut. We'll be saw cutting away the existing islands and creating just a very straight linear drive into the site, with, you know, accompanied by sidewalks and crosswalk. The sign will be here, and as they travel into the site, you know, this is, again, this porte cochere right in here, and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. Let's see here. Right. And so they can either, they can go either direction, to the east of the porte cochere, and then, to the west is obviously one way there. So I'm just trying to see if I can get this to zoom out again. Yes. So, sorry, I have a hard time with this without my regular mouse. How can I get back to the hand? Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so as we move through here, maybe I'll just use these more regular zoom out. There we go. Right, oh, we got turned around. Okay. Control, there we go. There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
No
Goodness
problem.
gracious, we'll get there. Okay. Right, so here's the building addition. It's taking the place of lawn area. You may recall from our past conversations that the drop-off area here for the existing tenant is very undefined. And so that was another thing that Vishal was looking for, was for us to define the drop-off area. And so we've done that, and as a result of the drop-off area and also the new building, there's grading, which necessitates new pavement in this area where it's shown in gray.
Are you talking about the second drop-off area or the main drop-off?
I'm talking about this drop-off area here in the hatch.
The second drop-off area.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Where you have a big tenant on the back end of the building. Are you talking about the drop-off for them right now?
Yes.
Not the main entrance?
Right, we're not talking about the porte cochere entrance. We're talking about the drop-off for your, is it the?
CP Unlimited.
CP Unlimited. What's the CP stand for?
Cerebral palsy.
Yeah, which is an existing tenant. And they'll utilize these doors here.
So you have to go around to the back to get to that back? Is that what you're saying now?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the CP Unlimited is a current tenant, and currently they have buses, shuttle buses that come back into this area and drop off, but it's very unorganized.
It's currently parking spots, and we want to allocate it to be just drop-off.
Okay.
And so that's what we've done. We've striped out a drop-off location and reallocated the parking spaces around that. The other thing that's happened here is that we've relocated the refuse, which is currently, I think, in this area right here. It's being relocated back to the rear, and so parking is being reallocated around it. There was no parking right here, and we've, striped these spaces. So just to go over the details of the addition is 24,000 square feet. It's 4 stories. The existing building is 72,950 square feet. The site acreage is 7.6 acres. We're proposing 315 parking spaces. There are 411 parking spaces that are required, and so we are seeking a parking waiver. We are also seeking a striping waiver because the current parking spaces have stall sizes that are not in conformance with the current code. So the new spaces would be striped to the same length, which is 19 feet. But that doesn't take away from the aisle drives. We have the proper aisle widths required. So that pretty much covers the site plan and what's happened in the time since we were here in December. And I'll open it up for questions, I guess.
Okay, on those parking waivers, the board has discussed those in the past pretty thoroughly, so I don't think we had any problem with those waivers.
I have a question on the changes that you made in the front and the straight shot coming in on the drive. With the elimination of some of the saw cuts and stuff, have you considered security?
Like a
when you get a straight shot like that into the front of the building where somebody can without having the maneuvers, God forbid, something like that happens? Are there abutments or something to keep cars from picking up speed or?
There is a stop sign right here and right here, so.
Well, I'm talking about physical.
He's talking
some
about
kind
like
of
a
physical,
pavement bump.
you know, so
Yeah, okay.
when somebody has to maneuver, it uses speed a little bit. It does create a hassle a little bit, but it's also functionally safer for the occupants of the buildings.
Yeah, we could take that into consideration. I'll talk to the engineer about that and see, if there's any reason why we couldn't do that.
What would you do there? Maybe some kind of a speed hump even? or
That's what
something like that?
that sounds along the line, and I understand what you mean. Yeah.
So just an understanding, the buses that are going to come in through that same front portal, or right next to it, and come around the building?
He wants to know the
Or they come in the
circulation.
back end?
Yeah, so the buses would theoretically come through here and then down on the other side of the portage share to the back and drop off. But many of them will just pull into this parking aisle or the one behind it and then enter it.
And then everybody else is still going to come in through that same portal, or they're going to have we're going to have the access in the back?
People can come in through this main entrance, yes, and then there's still access to this side lot.
Maybe you could talk about the other tenants and do the majority of tenants in this area get people coming in at this entrance, and this entrance is just for CP Unlimited?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that the clarification you were looking for? The CP Unlimited building, which is primarily going to take up most of the addition, is that right?
No, not certain, but their entrance is just right there, so.
And they're back in here?
Yeah, they're back in here.
Okay, they're back in the main original building. So they're always going to enter in this area because that's how they enter their offices. That's where the patients are directed to go. But the majority of other patients will be entering from the porte cochere area, even for the new tenants within the addition.
So you're basically still going to keep the 3 entrances into the building? The portable? The main one in the front, the drop-off for all the patients?
Yep.
With the buses, and then you also had a third one?
In the back.
In the back?
Yeah. But just to be clear, the one for the patients is specifically for patients and employees, because it only takes you to a stairwell that allows you to access the rest of the building, or that one specific tenant. So the general public isn't really going to be entering from that space ever, and they never have. Currently, they don't have a way to do that, because both exits on that side of the building, one is to a private suite and one is to a stairwell.
So the 4th-story that you're putting on, which is at the one end of the building, is it strictly for the one tenant? Are they going to have that, or is that going to be opened up to everybody else?
It's going to be open to everybody else, and yeah.
So
Are you suggesting most people are going to try to enter through the back of the addition?
Or the front end?
No, the opposite. So for CP Unlimited, the one user at the rear or the south end of the existing building, they currently enter from a back entrance there. An entrance will be preserved.
Okay, sorry, I think I understand the question now. So when the addition is built, yes, we're going to put another entrance for the general public right here.
On the addition?
Yes, on the addition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was causing confusion over there a little bit.
I was talking about current state, sorry.
Yep.
Is that going to have a covering too, like you're doing with the main?
Maybe an awning, but I don't think it's going to be anything extravagant.
Yeah, I think we talked about that previously at one of our meetings.
We
and
did.
I don't think the elevation drawing showed anything, so if there's going to be an awning or something like that, it probably should be shown on the plan. But you're saying it'll be something fairly modest, not like another porte cochere or anything like
I
that.
think there is actually an awning shown here and also an awning shown here. It's just really hard to see. Hold on. Can you see that? You see the anchors on the wall there? You can zoom in.
It's
No,
really hard to
no.
Yeah.
So if there is such a thing on the drawing, you might want to do like a little blow-up of the
Yeah.
entrances.
Yeah,
So it's on the
maybe you could
side.
see it better now.
Oh, there's an entrance.
You see those anchors? Yeah. But yeah, we'll make sure it's on both the rendering and the elevation and called out.
Oh, yeah.
Now, are you going to have the sidewalk go all the way around the building or not? It looks like the sidewalk doesn't go along the,
No.
the left side of the building.
That's correct. Currently, there is only a partial sidewalk right in this area here at the north side. There's no sidewalk right in this area. And then getting to the, yeah, so the existing building doesn't have sidewalk continuous around it. You can tell that the new building, the new addition does have sidewalk. That's this hatched area here.
Yeah, actually, it is a little awkward at the current existing condition where the sidewalk starts kind of after a little piece of lawn. And if you're parking a little too far to the south, you're not on the sidewalk. You have to kind of go either through the parking lot or on the lawn to get to the sidewalk. So it might be interesting to think about somehow connecting all that a little bit better together.
Sorry, could you just tell me which side of the building you're talking about?
So this is on the east side.
This
It's
side.
on the east side of the existing building,
Okay.
and it's at the southernmost part of the site.
So yeah, right here, there's like this sidewalk's all weird.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is you have to walk on the grass to get to the sidewalk. So
Right.
this would solve that because they're
It's-
actually putting a sidewalk completely around the addition.
And it's connecting with
Okay.
this sidewalk here.
All right, so I think that's also is not clear when you were describing that. Okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
the-
very good. It's all coming together now.
The doors on the far side, is that emergency egress doors coming out?
Which one's?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but
Oh, that's in the rendering? I don't know.
I think that was just a proposed
Okay.
entrance.
So what are we looking at here?
What's the question?
This right here, is that an emergency?
I don't know. We can find out and make sure that we point out the emergency exits in our next submission.
On the side of the building.
yeah, you see kind of, you can almost see stairways inside the windows.
Yeah, there are staircase, yeah.
And last time we were also talking about signage.
Mhm.
Did you come up with any conclusions for signage?
We have the location of the proposed sign, the monument sign on the site plan. As to wayfinding signs, we will be proposing those, but I think we will be doing that at a later date.
Yeah, I was just going to mention on the new monument sign, make sure that that complies with the town's size dimension requirements.
Yes, that's the intention.
All right, any other questions so far?
Yeah, on the west side of the building where you have the striping for the drop-off area,
Yes.
you have the canopy there for the entrance. I guess my question is if that canopy is large enough, if somebody's waiting for their ride, they're not going to walk out to is that canopy large enough for a couple of people to wait and leave enough room for people to kind of come in and out?
It's driving me crazy.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But if you have that area striped for drop-offs and whatnot, so, on a day where it's raining, somebody's just waiting for somebody to go walk to get the car, pull up. just would want to make sure that that area was large enough. I mean, you have that large area in the front of the building.
Yeah, right,
For
so.
that very reason.
Yeah, we have it just in this area, but we can explore providing additional coverage and awning area. Where do people presently wait if they need to be outside and can't go inside? Because, I mean, currently you're using that.
People wait in their
Kind of.
cars or in the lobby.
Okay. Yeah.
At that entrance point on the west side, is there going to be like a lobby type of area where people, or is that?
I don't think so. It's just going to be a long hallway that'll connect to the other side
So,
of the
yeah, it's all the
building.
more reason to have a large enough canopy, right? You know, yeah.
Well, that brings up a question. When the buses come in, they're dropping people off. And I can understand that, and they're walking straight in. When the people are leaving, is it one person to a bus? It's not going to be one person to a bus, is it? It's going to be a group of people to a bus going back out?
It's like 1, 2 to a shuttle. And there's like 8 shuttles that are pulling up in the morning, doing drop off and pick up.
So where do those people wait for the shuttle?
Inside their day hab, and then there's a whole like exit system. When their shuttle comes, somebody gets radioed in the front, they call that person, they walk them out, they put them in, and then it leaves.
Are most of these people in wheelchairs?
Yes, absolutely, all of them.
Day hab. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so this nonprofit or state-sponsored entity does more than just work with people with cerebral palsy. It's like the general disabled community. And so I shouldn't say all, but 80% of their day hab patients come in with a wheelchair and need a lot of assistance.
And if I was dropping someone off in my car, where would I go?
You would go
Would I
to
go to the
the
Port
front
Cushion.
area.
Yeah.
Or if you were very familiar with the building, you might go into this alternate exit or entrance right here, which is in the back, and then there's the back entrance right here.
Yeah, and there is some available parking back there, I think, that I noticed the other day I was out there, and a lot of those parking spaces are not occupied, at least a lot of the time. So it is, I think that's something that people will, and maybe some signage to that effect, like wayfaring signs, might help people figure out that there is available parking in the back, especially since some of the parking will be eliminated for the addition on that side there. Just a thought.
And the assumption is all the doors are going to be handicapped accessible.
Yes.
I sort of, I'm just kind of curious. I noticed the window profiles on the new building for the top floor are different. Functionally, is there a different use for the top floor on the new building than the rest of the floors, or is
The ceiling is
just,
higher, right?
Yeah, it looks like they just probably maxed out on ceiling height and gave it all to the 4th floor is my guess.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it looks cool, but I'm just wondering if functionally there's a difference.
No, functionally I don't think so. You never know though, like what kind of tenant would want it.
Yeah.
It could theoretically be a lab that could really benefit from having tall ceilings because of equipment. But generally I think it's just like people like having higher than 9-foot
yeah.
ceilings. So, maybe a little premium for the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a commercial penthouse.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I was thinking. It's like, that would be where I would want to be if I could afford it.
All right. Well, why don't we go to MJ's memo? Denise, could you kind of quickly run us through that? It doesn't look like there's too much new stuff in there.
Yes. The memo dated June 5th, we did confirm that the planning board had classified this as an unlisted action and chose to conduct an uncoordinated review. So based on that, MJ is prepared to draft a Part 2 AEIF if the board is comfortable. The applicant already pointed out that there are 2 waivers that are required for this approval, the reduced parking as well as the parking space dimension waiver. And this submission did address the engineering comments. The only exception is there's still a need to obtain approval from Dutchess County Health for the sewer connection for the new addition to the building.
Right. Any questions on MJ's memo or any other things we haven't talked about yet?
No.
So, so we heard about looks like the primary changes have to do with the design of the porte cochere at the building entrance and modifications to the architectural details of the proposed addition. I think those all look good. You know, they look compatible with the existing building. We heard confirmation that the driveway entrance is going to be realigned, and so we added on the thought about perhaps adding as a safety element some kind of thing that would help slow vehicles down. We talked about the parking waivers, the new monument sign. Is there an actual image of the monument sign in the plan?
I
didn't really have time to look through it.
Yeah, I don't
to
believe
see.
so.
I don't think so. We could make one for the next.
Yeah, that should be part of the plan set.
Let's see here.
I've never seen one.
And it should have the dimensions and everything on it.
Okay. Actually, let me go back and call and see what the detail number is.
I don't think, Debbie, we ever got like a sheet of the architectural materials, so we should get that at some point soon. Actually, very soon, because I think we're at a point where we're going to start trying to move this forward.
Yeah, we haven't had a public hearing yet, but I know.
No, well, we're going to talk about that, yeah.
There's a detail, C531 for the sign, so I think it is in here.
Oh,
I just-
sign. Say that again?
C on, sorry, sheet C531, there's a detail, so I'm just about to.
530.
Yeah, that's 530, so
And it does it actually have the dimensions on it?
it should. Here we go. It's number 1, sheet number 1, or sorry, detail number 1 on sheet 531.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, so there you see it. Let's see, cast, yep. That's foundation.
Okay.
Mm.
So speaking of a public hearing, so the board was actually ready to set a public hearing. Last we saw you on December 11th, and you guys requested that we hold off while you had a chance to take a closer look at things. So we've done that, and so I guess now we want to check with the board to see if, now that the plans have been modified, whether the board is ready to schedule a public hearing on this application for the July 9th meeting. I am.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say so.
Is it where you put the signs?
Can you vote on the public hearing first?
Yeah, let's don't jump the gun, Fred. I'll let you make the motion. No, we won't even make a motion on the signs, on the sign. Would you like to make a motion, though, Fred, to schedule the public hearing on the proposed 400 West Edge Site Development Plan Amendment on July 9th
Second.
at 7 PM or as soon thereafter as possible?
Yes.
Fred moves it and Bob seconds it. Speeding right along. Is there any further discussion on that?
No.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And as always, if there are any further changes in the plan, or when we get to the public hearing, the public hearing can always be kept open. So now, Fred, what would you suggest for a public hearing sign? How about at the existing main entrance to 400 West Edge?
It's so hard because it's, you know, we're so deep into that and it's, you know, I would,
When you come in
Where
and
do we
facing
put it?
the...
you're gonna put one out on Route 9. I don't know how, you know, what that's gonna
No,
accomplish. So I can
we
see
can't
it
do that.
going in with
Can't,
Planet
yeah.
Fitness is
So,
at that corner there.
just keep in mind, this is a,
No, but what
this
about
is
the
a,
extension of
wait a
the
minute,
sign
wait a
and-
minute. This is a site plan amendment. It's not like a big new building. So don't think we need one on Route 9, really.
No, I said.
I also don't think we need one where we've put them in the past, like at the intersection of whatever that road is that comes in off of Route 9 where you turn left to get to 400. I don't think we need one there. I think all we need is at the entrance to the
Well,
site.
If you go, you get into the plaza and you're going all the way, and you gotta either make a left or a right.
Yeah.
The pond is out front.
Right.
Right there.
That's what I'm saying. I
Oh,
don't
is that
think we
what you're
need
saying?
one. That's what I think we do not need. Because of the nature, this proposal is really very specific to the interior of the site in terms of
You
changes.
gotta go all the way around then.
So only people
Well,
going to 400 will know.
But why would somebody come specifically to go in to look at a sign to see where? I think people who are interested in the public hearing, which is the idea of showing the public hearing sign, is for people who know the site and
Where it is.
what the changes are going to be, or they want to know what the changes are going to be. They won't want to go to that building unless they want to go to the building for a reason.
Put it in the bump out.
No, but what
It's
about
going away.
people going to 200 West Stage and all, they wouldn't know about if you don't put the sign.
Well,
If you
why
have
would
it
we
out in the
care?
middle of-
Why would we care?
My view is that if you only put it close to the building that is impacted, then you're only going to get specialists, people who are specially interested in that area. You're not going to get more of the general public.
But
Unless
how
you-
many people from the general public do you think would really want to see this?
I don't propose to
Millions.
even consider that, but what I'm considering is an opportunity for the general public to get,
I'm trying to simplify this, guys.
That's okay.
yeah.
So I suggest we have one sign right at the direct entrance. If somebody wants to make a motion to change that, please go ahead.
We're just curious.
Okay.
where to put it.
Done? I hope so.
You're saying as soon as you
One sign.
turn in?
One sign at the direct
not
entrance
that-
to the
at-
site.
at
Okay,
the
that's it,
400.
guys. That's it. That's all we're going to talk about with this.
400 entrance.
All right. So it appears that there have been sufficient discussions about the seeker aspects of this because it is a unlisted action, fairly simple in terms of the environmental impacts on an already developed site. So I'm wondering if the board would like to authorize MJ to prepare a draft EAF Parts 2 and 3 and perhaps a draft neg deck for the board's consideration. We will have a public hearing on July 9th, but if we have the draft seeker documents and the public hearing goes well and is closed, we could proceed to look at and perhaps adopt the EAF Parts 2 and 3 and a draft neg deck.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest it for a more complex application, but this doesn't seem to fall into that category, so I think that's reasonable.
Others think the same? I mean, there are going to be some minor changes further in the plans, but I don't think that's going to affect the seeker aspects of this proposal. So would someone like to make a motion to the effect of authorizing MJ to prepare a draft EAF Parts 2 and 3 and a draft neg deck for the board's consideration at the July 9th meeting after the public hearing is held?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Anthony moves it, Felix seconds it.
Just one question, if
Okay.
for some reason, if the public hearing continues till August,
Then we probably would not want to act on the secret. We could, but once well, number one, once you close the public hearing, that sets a time period within which the board is supposed to take action. Similarly, once the secret determination is made, it's not the same kind of a time frame, but it implies that things are ready to move ahead. Usually with these, it's a simultaneous, hold the public hearing, close it, and then proceed with the secret documents. We can decide at that time if we are not ready to approve the secret documents, but we'll have them there.
so we'll have them ready, but we might not have, okay.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Should we be concerned a little about the two constructions going on together at the same time, potentially?
Yeah, the hotel
Yeah, because
and the
yeah.
addition.
Just
No, but
throwing it out.
Hotel is in this, this is little far away, right? It's not close to the 400.
Yeah, I mean, there will be construction vehicles coming in,
I know,
to both sites.
Same direction. I
Same,
guess.
same general area.
Yeah, that's true.
They park their trucks there during the,
And I suppose the seeker document could make some reference to the fact that, there will be other construction going on, and it could have some, I don't know if you'd really consider them cumulative seeker impacts, but just as a note to maybe make it clear that there is construction that's going to be going on both ends of this particular area.
because that's part of the shared parking that we sort of bounced around with the other building too.
Right.
Is that the 300 Westage Hotel that you're?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
May I make a statement?
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that as it pertains to parking, across the entire Westage Business Center, there is an easement so that parking can occur for each location anywhere within the business center. So if construction, takes over some parking spaces, it's not like there's no parking they can move over.
There would actually be a ton of overflow right here in the Spring Hill Suites lot. And people from 400 West should theoretically could park there and just walk over the mulch we have between the trees and then get to the building.
I think the hotel development is going to actually be a bigger impact on their end of the parking lot, because they're actually taking up a fairly large section that's not going to be parking anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be, in the vicinity of your building, there will definitely be some impacts from construction. So it's a good point to consider, and possibly even something to think about in terms, I don't know if we'll have any particular conditions to add to it when we get to a resolution of approval, but maybe requiring some kind of a, construction phasing between the two different developments that are going on.
Correct. Especially because the two buildings are actually being used during this construction, the 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Most times, you guys are having do's and don'ts of where construction vehicles or people working in construction can park.
So I think we had a motion and a second for the seeker documents, and we had quite a bit of discussion. Are we ready to vote? Sure. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so if MJ could have the seeker documents drafted so that we can review them if appropriate at that meeting. But I would say that we probably don't want to authorize the preparation of a draft resolution of approval at this point. I think we'll be making good progress if we can do the public hearing and the seeker documents. Any other questions from anyone? The applicant as well?
Nope.
All set?
Yes.
Okay, and so, yeah, so for the public hearing package, yeah, Debbie takes care of that. All right, well,
All
thank
right.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Let's see. Okay. We have reached the final project review for tonight, and that is the Fishkill Commerce Center, Site Development Plan, Floodplain Development Permit, and Freshwater Wetlands Watercourse and Water Body Permit, or to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on May 27, 2026. Welcome, Jennifer. How are you?
Good evening, welcome. You know, when you were talking about the Knicks game, I have to share that I got home from a meeting last night and saw that they were down by, like, I forget if it was 25 or whatever it was, and I decided to just turn it off and go to bed. So I missed it. I'm going to have to watch the end of the game tonight when I get home. See the excitement.
I actually was working on all this stuff fairly late and turned the game on, thinking it probably would be over by then. And the Knicks were already back within about 17 points or so.
Yeah.
And I was going, even then, it was like, oh boy, this is not good. And, but I decided to watch it, and I'm glad I did.
Yes, yeah, you made the right choice.
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah, I couldn't go to sleep after that. Anyway,
so
welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's see, when did we last see
So
you
we were
guys?
last here in April. We missed you last month, but we were here
Yeah.
in April when I believe Chairman Cantor, you were not here.
And then before that, it was quite a while,
Before
right?
that, it was the summer of 2025 was the last time we were here. So in that interim period, what we'd explained in April was that our project team was hard at work and devised a plan to completely eliminate the proposed on-site septic and instead connect to the sewer on the north side of 84. So that'll result in a approximately 2,500 linear foot horizontally directionally drilled force main underneath 84. The project team worked really closely with the Village of Fishkill, also with the Dutchess County Department of Health and New York State DOT to come up with that plan. So we were happy in April to come back to you and present what we had been working on. And when we got what we perceived as some positive feedback about that plan, we went back and we updated all of the project materials. We updated the plan set, we updated the part 1 of the EAF, we updated the environmental assessment report to incorporate those revised, that revision to the plans. With our submission for tonight's meeting, we also included responses to the MJ engineering memo from April 1st, also a response to the HydroQuest memo from last July. We included an update to the EAF Part 2 commentary that we had provided previously, and also a Part 3 narrative, and that was in response to the MJ Engineering memo's request for a narrative explaining why we believe there's no significant adverse environmental impact as a result of the project. So we've provided all that documentation. I know it's a lot for your meeting tonight. We are, particularly given the recent amendments to the environmental conservation law pertaining to SECRA and the timing, the time limitations on SECRA determinations, we are hoping to advance the board's review of a SECRA determination for the project. So we'd like to talk to you about that tonight, about hopefully revisiting the Part 2 and getting to a Part 3. But with that, we're happy to answer any questions you have, pull up any of our plan sheets that you'd like to discuss, and have a discussion.
And we also have Paul Rubin with us tonight, our hydrogeologist from HydroQuest. And we do have Paul's updated memo from June 8th, 2026 that we can talk about a little bit later. But yeah, actually, it would be helpful, like you said, Jennifer, there's a lot of material put together, very helpful, and I think it will help the board start putting our thoughts together on particularly the seeker aspect of it. But do you have some of the more detailed plans showing the new area of the sewer connection that could be put up, and we could talk about that a little bit more?
Yes, and I should have announced Mr. Harder earlier, but we are joined tonight by Owen Harder from McFarland Johnson and Jack Kelly from Scannell. So I'll ask Owen to man the ship here.
All right.
Walk you through the revised plan.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So, good evening, everyone. Owen Harder with McFarland Johnson. We're the engineers of record for the project. I'll try to move to the right plan sheet here. There's a lot of plans in here, so I think I'm looking for the newest utility plan. Okay, here we go. So, when we were last here for the April Planning Board meeting, we initially presented just a single sheet to kind of gather everyone's thoughts on the proposed feasibility of this plan set. So we just presented really a high-level alignment from the proposed warehouse building to across Interstate 84 to a Village of Fishkill manhole on the other side of the interstate. So since then, we've incorporated those detailed engineering that detailed engineering design and the alignment into the full plan package. So we did that by adding this utility sheet 4. And just to kind of talk about it at a high level, it's a little difficult to see, but the interstate are all these gray lines here. So there's the on and off ramps for each way of the interstate, and we're proposing to connect to a Village of Fishkill manhole, which is just on the other side of Route 9. North of the east-west highway here. This is similar to other projects in the area that are looking to connect to the sewer, so we're working kind of in coordination with both the village and other applicants on kind of getting this pulled together and tying this all in correctly. And just to reiterate, this alignment is all horizontally directionally drilled, so there's no surface disturbance at all. It's all kind of pushed from our project site with robotics and going in every direction, and they can fundamentally just get there using GPS and everything. It's very, very efficient and cool technology. So that's about a 3,000-foot run from our project site, originating from a force main pump station right next to the warehouse.
Is there's no impact to the aquifer from a depth point of view or anything? As a result of that technology?
No, it's very shallow. It's only going like 5 feet below grade under the wetlands, and then once it's at the interstate embankment, it's going fairly deep just to kind of get under all the utilities that might be under there, and then just to kind of do a straight shot to the manhole. But
I'm assuming there's a pitch.
Yeah, if I'm going to pull up the profile here. Yeah, so try to zoom in here. So here is the pump station, and it has a kind of a linear alignment for the force main coming from this pump station, which is next to the warehouse, and then it dips down about 5 feet under the wetlands that are on site, and then once it hits the embankment of the interstate, it gets a lot deeper and almost horizontal there, but keeping constant slope so that there's not any air bubbling up on either side. So it's kind of just dipping down and dipping right back up on the other side. And then that's tying into this manhole right under Route 9 here.
So it's like an impervious pipe
right.
that will resolve.
Right, yeah, so it's going to be HDPE pipe, and then we're coordinating with DOT whether or not they need that cased under the interstate or near their bridge abutments and everything. So there are some conditions that we're working with the DOT on for that.
That's my next question.
For that aspect, yeah.
Because one of the things that I'm most concerned about at least is this making sure that we do not disturb the aquifer now, or make sure that, while simultaneously making sure that we do not disturb it in the future.
Right, right. Yeah, and it's a very small pipe. It's about 2 inches in diameter, so.
I was going to say, is there 2 of them?
There's only one, so it's pushing, there's 2 pumps to push one, flow through one
Just
pipe
one
there.
pipe?
Yeah, yeah. Previously, in this previous septic design, we had 2 parallel force mains to get to the septic
Is
field.
that 2-inch pipe just going like that, or is it going to be that 2-inch pipe sleeved into an outer?
Yeah, so from the majority of the run, it'll be 2 inches, and then under the interstate, it might have to be sleeved in a larger pipe
Kind
size.
of redundancy, just in case there's a problem.
Right, right, and we'll coordinate that with the DOT, kind of going under the right-of-way there. A lot of
Will
the-
it be a single bore from the project site?
That's the plan. We'll kind of coordinate that with any contractors. There is the possibility to, if they need to break it up, let me try to. Go to this sheet. If they do need to break it up, there is an area outside the wetland buffer here that they might be able to do a temporary receiving and launch, which would only be like a 20 by 20 square foot footprint of receiving and relaunching right there. But right now, the plan is one single bore.
If there ever is a break in the sewer pipe, in the part that goes under the wetland, how is that handled, and is it something that could actually result in any impacts to the wetland?
That's a good question. If that does happen, obviously the pump station will be completely shut off, and there would be no flow going through that system. We would have to work with getting that relined as soon as we could, in preventing any sort of leak coming out of the pipe. But yeah.
So, okay, like he was saying there, so in other words, like I said before, you're going to have the 2-inch line, but you're going to also have a larger, like 3 or 4 inch, I guess, line going all the way out, so it's kind of sleeved, so if there is a break.
Right.
I guess there might be something in the system that kind of knows that there's been a breakage and.
We will know that by the failure of the pump station, kind of not having any head to push anymore. So the alarm will go off, and then it'll be everything will be shut down until they get that figured out.
Pressure tested as well.
Yeah, yep. So and then the pump station has an alarm panel that'll make a loud flashing noise when something goes haywire. The rest of the plan sheets just mostly incorporate this aspect in getting rid of the septic, the raised bed field out here. And all the other material we submitted includes updated SHPO correspondence for the new leg here. We previously only looked at a SHPO, no impact for the site, but now per MJ's request, we added that addition for the force main. And additionally, we provided leaf off renderings of the site. So I can pull those up if you guys want to see that.
Yeah, sure.
Can I ask you a question about at the end where you're dumping into the village
Manhole?
manhole?
Mhm.
Is that the same manhole that the Continental Commons is coming into?
I don't believe it's the same manhole that they're coming into. It's the same manhole that the medical park's coming into.
Well, they're crossing over.
They're crossing over, yeah, and they're going to terminate the same.
Continental Commons is also coming
Right.
that way somehow.
Yeah, I think they're going up Route 9. I don't know where they're going to end. I think that's something
Yeah, I
we
think
can.
they're coming directly up Route 9.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
As opposed to like,
I wasn't
the one
sure.
at the medical center is cutting under 84, just like this one on the west would be cutting under 84, and then over to
Okay,
Route
but
9.
Continental Commons
So
is
I don't,
coming up
yeah,
Route 9. It must be going into that same one.
yeah, it
It
would
sounds
be,
logical to me, but I was just
it
curious.
would be important to find out where exactly they're all connecting up.
Yeah, we do need more detailed survey of this area, but we do have shown some historic mapping showing kind of the proposed Fishkill Medical Park force main, and then the existing force main coming from the south here, and then the other gravity tie-ins here. So we'll have to coordinate that as we progress with the details.
Yeah, I think that was one of MJ's comments in the memo we got, but we can get back to that later.
So they had you had dual force mains before, right, in the previous plan? This one just has one? Was the purpose of the dual like a redundancy?
There was a dual for the septic system, kind of to help dose. It's a dosing, there's a certain amount of flow has to get to the septic tank, so they kind of dose the pumps that way. But now there's just 2 pumps for 1 line. Just trying to pull up these renderings here. So we did previously supply kind of leaf-on renderings looking down the site access driveway, and now we did leaf-off renderings for the exact same views. So this is looking down our access easement into the site with the future neighboring mall property fully constructed, so we can see it for perspective here. And that is the majority of the view. We did provide this leaf-off rendering of Route 9 going south. You can see it's very difficult to see if there's any building coming through the trees back here, but it is blocked by the state wetland, so it's difficult to kind of process that through a rendering. But
yeah, so what we're looking at there is the other warehouse that was approved already.
That's correct.
That still isn't built, but that's what you see up front directly from Route 9.
Yeah, and the Home Depot here.
Now, the 300,000 cubic yards of fill that you're bringing in is just to bring it up to the same level?
That's correct. Yeah, about the same level as that neighboring property. Yeah, so right now the site sits at around 210 feet. We need to get it up to, I think it's 219.5 feet to get it 3 or 4 feet above the floodplain elevation. So the neighboring property at the mall is already naturally at that elevation, and our site dips down because it's so much lower, so we have to kind of raise it up to that elevation. And that's the reason for importing that much fill around the building pad.
As you're bringing that fill in and bringing that site up, where in the plans can we see that it meets the criteria established by 150-79, the town code for the aquifer overlay? So as you're bringing that up, that you're not that you're meeting the letter of 150-79 as well as the spirit of 150-79, which says, look, this is a town resource, significant resource, as pointed out by the HydroQuest document. That is the gem that the town of Fishkill enjoys today. We just want to be sure that is maintained.
Sure, yeah. We can touch base with our, hydrogeologist, kind of put together a narrative in response to that. I think that'd be the best solution to defend that.
I think it was also mentioned in MJ's document that we as a planning board have a responsibility to assure that 150-79 D&E are in fact specifically met.
Right.
Yeah, and I'll also refer you to, in our submission materials, in the Part 3 narrative that we offered in response to MJ's request, of course, there's no page numbers, but Item 4, impact to groundwater, we included an entire analysis about Section 150-79. That's fine. I mean, I can go through it tonight, but it is in the materials.
Yeah, interestingly, there are some very specific things that don't necessarily, I think, get to what I know you're trying to get to, Kevin, which is, because these deal with very specific things like installation of underground fuel tanks prohibited, and farm animal wastes And
That's why I said the spirit of the thing.
and
Yeah.
and bulk storage of artificial fertilizer. So all that stuff is a no-no in an aquifer protection zone, basically. Then it gets into like the new septic systems within the zone have to be located 400 feet from any public water supply wellhead, and then gets into other things with agricultural practices. But there isn't really very much other stuff in there that kind of tells you how you analyze its
Right.
impact on an aquifer of something like a warehouse building.
So it's incumbent upon us to look at the verbiage as well as the intent behind it and ensure that we're all satisfied that this particular gem of a resource that we as citizens of the town of Fishkill enjoy is maintained and not disturbed as a result of these developments.
Well, I think we'll be asking Paul to expand on that aspect a little bit, so we'll get to that in a minute or two.
Yeah, and I'll also mention, we've read the sort of the intent section of 150-79, obviously, and, as Chairman Cantor pointed out, I think we meet each of the specific enumerated restrictions in 150-79D. But if you go back to the more, the policy statements, it talks specifically about impervious surface coverage, making sure that that's minimized to the maximum extent possible, and protecting the aquifer from any ill effects of impervious surface coverage. And that, to my mind, that then brings up stormwater management and making sure that you have the water quality and the water quantity controls. And obviously, there's no, as we've mentioned in our materials, there's no stormwater management facilities at the site currently for the golf course. We will be introducing stormwater management facilities, which will introduce a water quality protection measure, which I think will be an improvement for the site. So we did reference that in our materials. And I think, as far as the specific impacts to the aquifer from the importation of fill, I mean, if there's a specific impact that you're concerned about, we'd like to hear that and discuss that tonight and allow our hydrogeologists to respond to that specifically. But we're not aware of any specific impact that would result from just the importation of fill to the site.
Got a question for you, based upon contamination. Say
Yeah.
there is a fire in a warehouse, and you have certain chemicals in that warehouse. How are we protecting the aquifer? More important, the water underneath the aquifer, or going down to the aquifer against that? Are you putting in any measures regarding that, building the building?
So we don't have any specific tenants identified at this time, so I wouldn't know what kind of chemicals, if any at all, would be within the warehouse, first of all. Second of all, I think we may have addressed this at a previous meeting where, there will be measures within the building, obviously, to protect against spills coming to, outside of the building. But I would also mention that the Aquifer Protection Overlay Zone covers much of your town. I mean, that particular condition is not unique just to this site. So I guess I'll leave it at that for
It's a
tonight.
warehouse storage of, other than household goods or hotel, which doesn't have, a lot of the other stuff that we deal with doesn't have storage of chemicals in it.
And like many warehouses, it will have a halon protection system, right? And if the halon protection system goes off for fire, then what happens to the halon? Right? So these are just some considerations.
Yeah, not to mention air quality issues if there is an explosion or fire or some other disaster happens. Fortunately, this site is not directly adjacent to residential development, but still, when something like that happens, the air quality can be affected quite a distance away from the building.
And we have experience with that just up the road.
Oh, the giant warehouse, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's see. Any other questions for now, or should we go to Paul and ask Paul to give us a quick summary of your new report, and then referring back to any things you may have said in the old reports, if you would like? All right, why don't you go ahead, Paul?
First, I'll comment on the horizontal directional drill. I've been involved in a lot of evaluation, a lot of projects with it. It's a great change. If I had money to invest, it would be in trenchless technology. This is an incredible technology. People go under rivers coming in from different sides, miles apart, for all kinds of things, and whether it's for optical lines or sewer lines or floodwater reasons, the technology is great. So, I applaud that. Okay, you want the horizontal directional drill. As Owen pointed out, it's a shallow bore. So in terms of the aquifers there, the way to look at it is there's really two aquifers, all right? There's a very shallow aquifer in sight, which is what the bulk of their borings have identified, okay? It's 5 to 15 feet or so, depending where you are. It's a highly permeable material, no doubt, drains right into the Clove Creek. So you want to make sure that if you're going to have stormwater basins and detention type systems, you want to make sure that they're not going to leak toward Clove Creek and become a water quality problem. That would be the biggest concern in terms of water quality, would be the shallow aquifer to the nearby stream. So that you want to make sure that's there. And in the documentation that they provided, they acknowledge New York State DEC design criteria. So presumably we have to have faith in the DEC design criteria is there. So so hydrogeologically, there's a shallow aquifer. Underneath the shallow aquifer is probably a glacial lake sequence, sort of a alternating, silts and clays, one layer after another deposited into glacial lake. And it's beneath that we have the principal aquifer. The principal aquifer simply referring to, it's like a public aquifer except for a primary aquifer, except for it's not fully used. And in this case, part of it in places is used. And one of the things I bring out in my report is a discussion of this principal aquifer at depth. I say principal because on the site area, it has not been used as a primary aquifer. And that's the only difference, is whether it's been used, okay? So the one well that's fascinating on this site is the irrigation well, okay? We have in the documentation that they provided the only information in terms of its potential yield. Okay, its yield in a questionnaire put out on May 14th, 2024 by the owner, John Valletto, points out, based on his experience of many years there, that this has a yield of 1,500 gallons per minute. Okay, the applicant hasn't done any testing to document that it's more or less. We know in other areas of the aquifer further away that they have lower yields. So if this yield is anything like that, this is an incredible gem of a resource. So we want to make sure whatever happens at this site, one, doesn't compromise that aquifer, and that we consider whether it is the highest and best use for the site. So, as pointed out, the site is entirely overlain, but the town of Fishkill's designated aquifer protection overlay zone. That site well that produces the 1,500 gallons per minute is within that zone. So when you're evaluating potential site uses and the current warehouse application, an alternate analysis option could evaluate the site within the context of a potential public water supply. In other words, a beneficial use of the 1,500 gallons per minute aquifer yield that is present there. So, I'm not sure where you are in terms of your SECRA assessment, But an important component of all secret assessments is the alternate analysis. So in this site, there's been no further documentation of the deep hydrogeology. We do know this. When you look at the irrigation well, okay, they talk about in the report, I think, I forgot the date, 1970 or thereabouts, that a water level was taken, I guess, by the U.S. Geological Survey in that well. But yet in my report, you notice I show a picture of the well, and the casing's all corroded and there's water leaking out the top. What that is pressure head from underneath, from the deep aquifer that's beneath that thick clay sequence. So the water level that's taken there cannot be correctly correlated with all the site water. But that aside, the point is, according to the previous owner, there's a huge amount of water there. So whatever you as a board decide to do, you should make sure it is a beneficial, best use interests of the town. And in my different reports, I've talked about the U.S. Geological Survey studies and how they point out that the town is developing and it needs more water. So that's something to consider. But again, just in terms of their application, their horizontal directional drill will not adversely impact the deep aquifer, okay? And it really won't adversely impact anything, really. So that's not a concern. So, in terms of, is there any risk to water quality within the shallow aquifer? My only concern would be, if the mechanism that they use doesn't work all year round, say on frozen ground, will that water go into the nearby creek or not? So you need to make sure the design is good if you're going to install any kind of a system here, and they are following design system by DEC. Another thought, and this is probably not as important, so no real studies have been done on site to know exactly how thick that glacial clay unit is between the aquifers. Yeah, I've been involved in looking at other sites, and one of the issues that happens is when you have these high pressure heads acting from below, from confined aquifer, which the irrigation well would be, it softens the clays, okay? For example, we were concerned about that when looking at a potential regional landfill in Ulster County, not too far from the Saugerties Thruway exit, okay? And there, one of the concerns was if you put too much weight on it, some of the drilling logs showed the drill rods sank under the weight of the rods. So if you have a lot of pressure coming in from underneath on those clays, the potential is to weaken and soften them. So depending on how far that weakness goes up, there's a potential risk of structural integrity loss, settlement. Would this facility be of sufficient weight to be a concern? Is the thickness of the glacial lake clay so thick that it's not a concern? It's something that needs to be looked at. I don't have the answer to it. I'm just saying I know it is a concern in some of these buried valley settings under a clay cap with high pressure heads that are acting upwards.
How do you determine? You have to drill down?
Drillers.
Test well?
Yeah, drillers very carefully log in, have the number of called blow counts to go down. And sometimes instead of having to add a weight to advance the drill rod's weight of the rod, that's how soft some of these things are. So I don't know if the building weight would be sufficient to be of a concern, and I don't know how thick the clays are. So, on-site borings to define how thick the clay is and whether it's got good structural integrity, is it competent to bear the loads that are going to be on it, is an unanswered question.
Well, one of the things I was wondering would be the weight of the amount of fill that is going to be brought in, which is a substantial amount of fill, whether that might have any impacts like you're talking about on the, that clay intermediate area and the aquifer underneath it.
I'd say that this is something you should ask them to evaluate.
And since we have your engineer there, we we can ask whether that has been evaluated, and if so, to what extent, and especially how that relates to the fill being brought into the site.
Right, we do have our civil engineer here, we do not have our hydrogeologist,
Right,
Terracon,
right,
so I
right.
don't know if, Owen, if you have any specific.
I would mostly defer to the hydrogeology comments that we do have in the environmental assessment report and submitted separately, so don't want to speak too much on the technical aspects of that without knowing all of it, but a lot of that is documented in his letters and back and forth with, the hydrogeology, so.
Did we get that?
Yes.
Because the question is, besides the dirt, on top of the dirt is cement. On top of the cement is whatever material's going into the warehouse.
Right, we understand that
And
question
and that
about.
was- would been all in that report?
About the chemicals, no. So the question that you raised earlier about the chemicals
I'm talking
being.
about weight.
The weight, we'd have to double check. I believe they did look at that, but we would have to, I don't want to misspeak, obviously, I'm not a hydrogeologist or an engineer, so I don't want to misspeak. It's certainly something that we will double check what's in the existing reports, but absolutely bring it to the attention of our hydrogeologists and have them respond specifically, even if it was in a prior report for the next meeting, so that it can
That's not really the
be.
realm of a hydrogeologist. That's more like a structural engineer
Yeah,
realm.
we do have a full geotechnical engineering report that shows the foundation design and the recommended sizing and weight that can go on the soil based on the borings that we do have. And that is supplied also in that same packet with the hydrogeology comments. So if it's helpful, we could kind of take that out and pinpoint the exact responses that might help with
The
this.
answer to us is yes. That would be very helpful.
And there were a number of soil borings around the building area, I recall, but I don't
But
remember.
they don't penetrate the.
Yeah, that's, the
place,
question would be how far down did they go, and would that,
Not far enough to look at that.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Absolutely. Thank you.
okay.
But we are happy with you moving.
Oh, yeah. That's a big deal from 150-79, your new bore.
Yes.
To underneath 84, that's a huge benefit.
Yes, thank you.
So, any other questions for Paul, since we were talking about that?
So you think we should drill a well there for the town? We have other property back there.
All right, well, why don't we ask Denise to go through MJ's memo? And it's a rather long memo, but I think a lot of it is, you could kind of summarize the key points for us.
And I'll also mention the structural analysis of that building foundation, the slab on grade, is going to answer some of the questions that you were asking, because they're going to want to ensure the bearing pressure doesn't settle the soil. So I think that they will have the answer to what you're asking as part of that structural analysis that should have been done. You're not driving pilings, it's just a slab on grade. So there'll be information and evidence to support that there shouldn't be settlement. They wouldn't want that for their slab, so they can address that. But with respect to the letter that MJ issued on June 5th, we did point out that the applicant has addressed, the applicant has addressed and responded to the EAF Part 1 and 2 and provided comments. And if the board is ready, we can draft an EAF Part 2 and schedule a public hearing with respect to those comments that were received. In general, they've addressed the technical comments. There are still a lot of outstanding comments related to agency involvement, the wetlands, which they're drilling under the wetlands as part of the directional drill, and a permit's required for that, as well as the access road The fill that they're bringing in requires a FEMA conditional letter of map revision as they're raising the elevation of that area up out of the floodplain. With respect to the stormwater pollution prevention plan, they do meet the requirements of the New York State Phase 2 stormwater regulations, the plan that they've provided. As well, they do meet the requirements of a general discharge permit during construction. So as long as they're meeting the requirements and designing the stormwater system as constructed, it should protect the surface water body, as well as, I think that there's no discharges to groundwater because of the depth. They don't have adequate depth of groundwater, so their design should be adequate to protect the surface water body. They do need to coordinate the force main with the town as well as the Department of Health. I think that there might be some cleanouts needed on the force main. There might not be enough detail in the plan at this point to have all the details needed. Dennis did point out that there is a similar force main that's being installed to cross under I-84 and suggested coordinating that through the town or the two applicants so that both projects are coordinated with respect to that drill, a directional drill under 84. There was also, we requested to see how they're connecting to the water main as part of the project. There wasn't details provided in the plans. And there were, and with respect to the stormwater, we did ask to see calculations for the double box culvert that they're installing under the road, just to ensure there's no down gradient flooding as a result of that and sized appropriately. And then there was the retaining wall, which requires, because of the height of it, requires an engineer, a licensed P to stamp that and a barrier across the top. That's just a summary of the comments are outlined in the letter, but that summarizes what we identified.
Thank you very much. All right, any questions from board members, questions or comments?
The question that I would add on your point is that the site water main, is that going to be town of Fishkill owned or is that privately owned?
So we're connecting into the Village of Fishkill water main, which is right behind the former mall site. That is existing, owned by the Village of Fishkill, and we would be connecting to that with a service lateral coming into our site, so that'd be private.
Okay. So it's a town building.
And then that requires an easement, unless you're dedicating it back to the town. Like that, I did mention there are some easements required for the stormwater and such as well.
Right.
Question, it's been a while since you guys have been here. Did we talk about whether the project would use any herbicide or pesticides?
I think we did talk about that, and I think we committed to no herbicides or pesticides.
Okay. And then the plan for like pavement in the winter, like, what you would use for ice, like, restrict,
I don't recall
what
that
that
we
would be
spoke
limited
about.
to, because I think that would be another just question. We would want to make sure whatever was being used, would be as safe as possible for the to the aquifer.
We can provide some specifics about like a de-icing plan.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate vehicle for asking this question, but is there a possibility of getting a hard copy of the response and the verbiage that you guys have been alluding to? Because I would really like to try to read a hard copy of that.
You have to have them provide it because I do not have extra copies.
Yeah, we're happy to provide a hard copy,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would very much appreciate that, at least for me.
Sure, of the submission that we're discussing for tonight.
That includes the verbiage related to the request,
Yeah,
responses.
okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Dominic, do you have any thoughts or comments at this point?
I mean, I do. You know, the project hasn't had a public hearing yet. But if the board, you know, feels that there is the potential for one or more significant adverse impacts, you know, that would require the preparation of an environmental impact statement, in which case, you know, there would be a public hearing as part of a draft environmental impact statement. I'm not suggesting that the board take any particular position, you know, but, you know, when you kind of have two choices. One would be to have a public hearing and then make a seeker decision, you know, seeker determination rather, or you can make the seeker determination and require the environmental impact statement and have one public hearing. I would also note that many of you may have seen my email about the state seeker reform that occurred.
Yeah.
And so now there is a clock that's running. It just started running for this project, so it's not as though, you know, it goes back from retroactively, but there is a one-year clock that runs now on the board's requirement to make a determination of significance, to make a neg deck or a pos deck on projects, as I see it. And so at some point, the board will have to be mindful of that. It's not today, because it was just...
So the date that goes into effect is, it's like June 15th or something like that?
Correct.
May I ask, Dominic, do you have guidance on the timing of, so I know it's a determination of significance with 1 year of establishing lead agency.
That's correct.
Right, so it's been about 1.5 years since lead agency has been established for this project.
Yes,
Do you,
but I don't.
I didn't see anything specific.
I haven't seen anything that is retroactive, you know, so I don't think it applies to projects that have been pending. My understanding of it is that it's going to be prospective, in the sense that the 1 year starts running for pending projects, you know, when it goes into effect.
Okay. All right, maybe if I need to ask for permission to speak to Dominic offline about that, I'll ask for that permission if I haven't asked for it already. But maybe we can.
We probably authorized it a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
I figured.
But we probably should reauthorize it.
Actually, I do have a recollection of that, so.
Yes, thank you.
And certainly, a procedural question like that would be appropriate.
Yes.
Let's see. Well, let me just get some things out here. So first, going back to what Paul was talking about, it sounds like connecting to the public sewer now, which is the current proposal, and eliminating the on-site disposal system would be a plus, and would probably be quite a bit of a plus in terms of the underlying aquifer in particular. Sounds like you still might have some concerns or questions about the upper layer, which could be maybe more susceptible to contaminants perhaps running into some of the...
These glacial lake clay, silt and clay sequences, they're very low permeability. They're not impermeable, they are leaky, and there's documentation of downward flow through them, but it's really low. So in here, any concern of aquifer impact, not versus whether it's available, but whether or not water quality impact is there, is solely the upper aquifer above the clay, and then over to the creek.
Yeah.
And the wetland.
And the wetland, yeah. Well, that reminds me, I was going to ask the applicant team, I think we had asked this a while back, but, I think maybe I was watching the broadcast of the meeting that I missed. I think the question was asked, have you been in contact with DEC for their input on the drilling operation of the sewer going under the DEC wetland?
Owen has been coordinating those efforts well.
And you're correct, John, that was a question that was asked.
Yeah.
We haven't received specific comments related to the directional drill under the wetland. We do have updated guidance on the validity of their jurisdictional determination, but we can coordinate with them to make sure they have some time to comment on that drilling.
Yeah, it's, I think, particularly important to see if they've had any other experience with that being the case with other DEC wetlands. And, you know, if they do, it would certainly be beneficial for all of us to hear from them of what their experiences might have been.
Sure.
You could, as part of your write-up, just put in that you'll, once it's installed, if you're going to install it, that it gets tested for, you know, its integrity, pressure test.
Yeah. Yeah. With that.
Let's see. Well, here's a question for you, Paul, and it may be unanswerable. But are there ways to kind of have it both ways, have our cake and eat it too, to approve a development like this warehouse facility, but do it in a way that would protect the future potential use as a public water supply?
I was wondering if you're going to ask that question.
So you must either have an answer, or you can tell me, I've thought about it, and I really can't tell you what the answer is.
Well, let's look like this. In their diagrams, for example, they refer to a couple of the well fields in the area. And you'll notice, drawn around them, they have like a wellhead protection area. And if you wanted to develop a future water supply for Dutchess County, which needs it here, apparently, according to the USGS, you would want to protect it and make sure you had a certain area around it that wasn't being adversely influenced by whatever kind of development you might have there. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question would be, can you have both?
And how large an area of protection would you normally want to have? And is this area one that would be able to have that, irrespective of this particular development, with all the other development that's already in the adjoining area?
Well, this is a great location. It's, you know, if you look at the maps, it's pretty centrally placed relative to where the aquifer is, and it's not too far from a confluence where things are flowing, you know, in that general direction in Valley Bottom. If there's any reliability to the only number we have on that 1,500 gallons per minute, that's an astronomical yield. You know, I think the highest other ones were maybe 600 gallons per minute, I think, in that general area. So there's other parts of the aquifer that have been tested. This one, we just have the owner's commentary that he uses it for irrigation, and he pumps up to 1,500 gallons per minute. So at this point, we have no other information, so let's go with it. So if that's true, it's an incredible gem. It's a resource that should not be compromised in any way. Could the applicant, you know, presumably, that one well isn't the only spot you could tap into it. You could potentially separate your distance out a ways. The applicant could donate a chunk of land to the town, a little further away from the building, and give it to the town for future development. Their project, you know, this horizontal directional drill, that's a great thing. If their septic system on the surface even were to leak to the creek and the shallow aquifer, odds are it wouldn't impact the deep aquifer. So if they were to, say, in the northern part of the site, give you a good chunk of land with access, and make it available for a public water supply so you don't lose that resource, that could be considered.
Well, it just so happens, and Jennifer, tell me if my memory serves me correctly, but there was a meeting of the applicant team with the town supervisor a while ago. It's probably a year ago now, where there was a discussion about the possibility of part of the northern end of your site either being donated as land or easements. And at that point, I think the discussions were primarily for a recreational trail connection going through the site, potentially to the Hudson Highlands State Park area. At that time, and I wasn't at that meeting, but I don't believe there was discussion about the potential use of property like that for this kind of potential for future access to the aquifer and a potential water supply. But it seems that maybe putting the two things together might be a consideration that the applicant and the town might want to consider. So, unfortunately, Paul, the planning board doesn't really have the jurisdiction to dictate what types of uses are allowed and not allowed on that site, and that's basically because the current zoning allows quite a range of uses, including warehouses and other types of industrial development. But sometimes the planning board can be kind of a facilitator to get the parties together and maybe see if something like that kind of combined use of property, whether it be through easement or donation of land, might be something that might be a reasonable.
Think about the word protection of the overlay zone.
Yeah.
Protection doesn't have to only be water quality. It could mean that it's accessible for use.
Right.
That could be a protection.
And that's what I'm talking about at this point, I think.
Yeah, so you're right, there was a meeting. I also did not attend that, so I'm not quite sure exactly when that occurred, but there was a meeting, and we have discussed with the board, and it's in all of our written materials that were submitted to the board for tonight's meeting, as well as prior meetings, that we are offering, and I believe it's indicated by the shaded area, but an area on the northern end of the site.
It's actually shown on the plan, yeah.
Yeah, because we specifically talked previously about access, public access to the state park that's adjacent to the property. So that is part of the project.
Yeah.
We also, in preparing for tonight's meeting, I kind of anticipated this topic would come up. It was sort of previewed in Paul's memo. And I wanted to note that, we are preserving more than 50% of the site. The whole northern half of the site is remaining open. We're not constructing anything on that northern site. We're directionally drilling underneath it, but it does remain open. I would have to speak to my client about whether they would be open to expanding that easement area to not only in area, but also in purpose, to allow for, if the town ever in the future wanted to develop a well field here in the future, to allow access for the town. So it's something that we'll have to report back to you for your next meeting.
Yeah, and of course.
I would comment that if you're going to be moving for consideration in that direction, that this should be a legal transfer of the property, so that it's locked in and protected, regardless of whether the warehouse sells, whatever happens. If that's part of the plan,
Mm-hmm.
it should be not. You can go through there. It's got to be you own it, with a certain wellhead protection around it.
Well, if it's going to be a fee title transfer, then we may have some concerns with zoning compliance. We need to make sure that what we're proposing remains zoning compliant if a portion of the site will literally be subdivided off and dedicated to the town. So we'll have to give some consideration to that as well. I think we had offered the easement for the walking trail previously.
Yeah. And again, the planning board can't speak on behalf of the town board,
Right.
totally different jurisdictions, and, but it certainly is something that I think, based on our discussions tonight, could maybe be the impetus for further discussions, getting the applicant team back together with the supervisor / town board, and, I mean, seeing if the town would even be interested in ownership of that kind of land. I'm not, again, neither of us having been there, it's impossible to know exactly what the discussion was, but.
It doesn't have to be a huge amount.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Did you guys ever test the well there for salt?
Did we test the well for salt? I don't believe so.
Our well across the street on Snook Road has salt in it, and we had to blend it with the village water.
Yeah.
All right? And I want to know, because you're on the same 84 salt where they, assuming the salt came from, and that would make a big difference if we wanted to drill another well, and it's going to have.
Well, there must be a source. Salt is infinitely soluble. I helped draft some legislation to help reduce road salt impacts when I used to work at the New York State Attorney General's office, and the documentation for road salt contamination is enormous. So if you're going to look at an area, you want to look at the source. Where's it coming from?
Well, that's why I'm saying, because it's not that far away where we have it. It's 1,000 feet.
What's up there?
We have a well on Snook Road.
Now, what's upgraded in the well might be salt source?
84.
84, yeah.
Major
Well, I'm
well.
talking about, well, then, what is this backs up to 84?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say anything, you know.
Well, here's an example. Years ago, when I worked at the Attorney General's office, I worked hard to force the Thruway Authority, who has unbelievable power, by the way, to extend a water line to 5 families because the New York Thruway road salting adversely impacted their wells, which I was able to document, and then they made good on it as a, quote, friendly neighbor. No, we're not responsible, but we're friendly neighbors, and everybody got their water. So road salt contamination is common.
Well, that's why I'm saying, but it's in the same, quote, potential aquifer overlay, because it's across the street.
Yeah, assuming the geology is the same right over there, it would be in the upper aquifer. So that would be presumably the lake clays, I don't know, extend over in that area, in which case you've got a pretty good hydraulic barrier.
That's how,
To the
I
deep
leave that
end.
to you guys. You know? It's just something we are aware of in the town, because we are blending our water from that well.
Yeah, well, if you look at what's going on in the Adirondacks, they have a big program to try and reduce just what you're talking about.
We do too.
Yeah, yes.
Highway superintendent.
Yeah.
Back to you, John.
A couple of other quick things. Let's see. All right, getting back to, you were talking about the applicant still not sure what types of warehouse uses would be in the building. It certainly would help the board to know a little bit more about what types of things might be in there, but beyond that, I think we would like to see some kind of commitment that there would not be things like battery storage facility in there, or these new data processing AI centers, that all of those types of uses can take up enormous amounts of public water supply and electricity and other public utilities that just wouldn't even be in the realm of what we're looking at with the seeker reviews that we're going to be coming up with.
I agree. For either one of those uses, they are going to well exceed the current scope of seeker review that we've provided, at least the data that we've provided, especially in terms of water usage. So certainly if a tenant were to come to us seeking to utilize all or a portion of the space, and their particular type of use would exceed the parameters of what was studied in your seeker review, your planning department and building inspector would require them to come back to you for an amended seeker review. We acknowledge that, and we're limited by what we're requesting, the type of warehouse that we're requesting, and the scope of the secret review that we're conducting here.
I think it would help to put that somewhere in writing, that these are the types of things that we are not going to be pursuing, attracting to this warehouse facility. Not to mention other things that I won't even bring up here because it's too upsetting to me to even talk about. But anyway, yeah, that's another question. Now, if we could build a new arena for the Knicks down, they were talking at one point about relocating Madison Square Garden, but I think that plan kind of is not being considered anymore. Oh, yeah, one other thing I was remembering from previous discussions about this is a transportation issue, not an aquifer issue, about the southbound turning lane that had been discussed and basically agreed to by DOT as being a necessary part of the plan for the two warehouses together going into that one entrance. I think it was mentioned that a notation to the effect of that southbound turning lane would be added to the site plans, and I don't think I saw anything on the recent plans.
Okay, we will double check that.
But I just wanted to confirm that still would be the case. Okay. So, possible next steps for the board. So I guess we have to figure out where we are and where we're going at this point.
Do we need an EIS?
Well, that I don't think we can answer tonight, but I do think that to get to that answer, we had previously had CPL, our previous consultants, do a preliminary draft version of an EAF Part 2 that was back around the time that you last appeared. And so I think we'd be kind of starting from scratch with a new EAF Part 2, and it could be based on all the discussions we've been having here tonight and recently, but also all the documents that the Fishkill Commerce Center applicant team has put together for us. The two seeker documents, I think, really are very helpful, and I think we could borrow from those. And,
absolutely.
Between the information that Paul has given us from your previous reports and your updated report, and the applicant's materials and the discussions that the board has been having, I think it might be a good time to put together a new version of a draft EAF Part 2, holding off on a draft neg deck or pos deck at this point, but see how the review of the Part 2 goes. But I suspect, this is just me, I suspect that based on what I'm hearing and thinking, it could very well be leaning towards a neg deck. But I think we'll have to have the whole board take a look at it and, have some really good discussions about it.
Yeah, we would absolutely welcome the opportunity to have the EAF Part 2 discussion with you at your next meeting. I think that's a good step forward.
I had earlier thought about the possibility of also scheduling a public hearing for the upcoming meeting, but it sounds like it might be a better idea to focus on the EAF Part 2, not knowing if for some reasons, even if there's one potential significant environmental impact that could lead to a pause deck, we probably want to hold that, hold the possibility of a public hearing until after we've gone through the Part 2 EAF. I mean, we can, and we have many times opened a public hearing and then kept it open. I know sometimes the zoning board almost indefinitely keeps their public hearings open, particularly when there's a coordinated environmental review and they're waiting for the planning board to get to a certain point of a neg deck for them to make their determinations. But I know, Dominic, I'd love to get your further input on whether we might want to do a public hearing and a simultaneous kind of review of the EAF Part 2.
But I think, your comments are astute, if I may, and having an updated Part 2 for the board's review for next month's meeting would be a good step in that direction. And it'll provide a direction for the board. The only thing that I would caution on would be if the board is considering a negative declaration, that before you adopt a negative declaration, if that's the path you're going on, you would have your public hearing, because I think it's important to hear from the public before making that particular decision.
So I think what we could do is authorize the preparation of the EAF Part 2 for the July meeting, and then, based on whatever that discussion is, then determine at that meeting if we should hold a public hearing, schedule a public hearing for the August meeting.
Makes sense.
No disagreement here.
Okay.
Thank you.
So then, if the board is okay with that approach, is there a motion authorizing MJ to prepare a new draft EAF Part 2 for the proposed Fishkill Commerce Center for the board's consideration at the July 9th meeting?
So moved.
That was Kevin?
Second.
That was Anthony?
Yep.
All right. Any further discussion?
Question?
Yep.
Would it be appropriate to request them to consider discussion that follows through on this possible protection of land as part of that, so it can be incorporated into it after you think about it?
Yeah, we will be we'll make a submission for your July meeting that responds to several of the questions that were raised tonight, and I think that was one of them that we said we would report back to the board on.
Yeah, and since that discussion it doesn't really necessarily involve the decision of the planning board, it may be something that may take more time and thinking of other people, but if it's something that looks like a potential solution to put that together as a possible agreement between the town and the applicant, I think that would go a long way.
A major secret issue would be, are you actually protecting the aquifer, protecting in terms of its availability?
Yeah.
That would fit into Part 2.
Yeah. And also, I guess I would suggest or ask that of MJ in putting the Part 2 together, and this probably is something that Anisha would probably be mainly responsible, at least for formatting it all. She might need to have input from other people, engineering, and I was going to ask if it can be also coordinated with Paul to the extent that you're available, and if Anisha has any questions she wants to ask you directly, we don't need to authorize that, but we can ask her to do that as part of her putting it together. Any further discussion on that motion?
No.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So we will have a Part 2 EAF to go through, and I think that will actually take a fair amount of time, probably comparable to what we've spent tonight.
Right. Okay.
So meanwhile, do you want a reauthorization for the two attorneys, or, I
If
know
it's
we've
necessary,
previously, we've previously authorized, engineering consultants to have discussions
Sure.
with our engineer. Pretty sure we did for the attorneys, but you think we should reauthorize that?
Happy to have a conversation with Jim.
Okay, good enough. All right.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate the discussion tonight, and we appreciate all the time that you're taking on this application.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming. Good
Thank
seeing
you.
you again.
Absolutely. Go Knicks.
Yeah. All right. Hold off on a public hearing for now. All right, so anything else that the board would like to discuss? We have no other agenda items. Any updates or anything anyone has? Next meeting, July 9th, and the submission deadline is June 24th. Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Motion.
Motion made.
Everybody
seconded,
moves that we
and-
adjourn.
And Paul, that was great.
Nothing to
Really,
prepare.
thank you. I learned a lot from you today.
It was good.
Really, very impressive.
I
Thank
actually
you.
don't either, but understand.
In response to giving the land.